welcome to Sarah's Stampin' Retreat. Today we're going to be making a lovely gift box using this Floating and Fluttering suite. So there's these stamps and then the dies to go with it, and they're actually really cool dies because you get this nice frame piece and you get the piece to go round here. You actually get two of those pieces, and those ones actually cut out the whole thing, so it comes out as one piece, and you can use that to make cards like this so that they're kind of all together in place and you only have to cut once, and when you're sticking them up on dimensionals then you can do the whole piece at once. It's also really flexible because you also get the individual pieces to cut out each of the individual elements as well, and you also get this piece which embosses the pattern into the butterfly as well as cuts it out. So it's a really cool set with lots of different things you could do. You can see on the actual stamp set as well, you've got pieces to colour the butterflies in as well as the outline pieces. I'm not actually going to use these colouring pieces today, I'm going to use the blends, but it's a really nice feature of this stamp set. So today I want to make a gift box that's good for chocolates. So I'm going to make one that's a little bit taller than I usually make. It's going to be 4 inches tall, then it's going to be 2.5 by 4 inches at the bottom. So I've got a 12-inch by 10.5-inch piece of Bermuda Bay cardstock, and I'm going to score that at 4 inches and at 8 inches on this side, which is the 12-inch side, and then I'm going to turn it round. So this is the 10.5-inch side, and I'm going to score it at 4 inches and then at 6.5 inches on that side. So then that gives us this 2.5 by 4 inch base with 4 inch sides. So then this is the lid, and this piece of cardstock measures 5.5 by 7 inches. And I want to score this at 3/4 inch and 1.5 inches on each side. But I'm just going to pop it. Can you see I've got a gap down here? It's not butted up to the side here. I'm leaving a little gap, and the reason that we do that is that we want the lid to be slightly bigger than the base. So by doing that, just leaves this bit in the middle slightly larger than the 2.5 by 4 inches. So I'm just taking it away from there a little bit, and then I'm scoring at 3/4 inch and at 1.5 inches. And I'm going to do that on each side, just leave it a little bit away and then score at 3/4 and 1.5. Three-quarters and 1.5. Three-quarters and 1.5. So then I'm going to bring the base back in, and I am going to cut. So you can see the score lines here, and I'm going to cut about 1 centimetre away from the score lines. I realise I do most of my measurements in inches, so if you're working in inches, 1/2 inch will work just fine. And then I'm just going to cut it up here, and I'm going to cut all the way up this score line right to the top. So then I'm going to be left with this bit of flap, and I'll cut right to the top of this side. And then I'm going to cut 1 centimetre, about 1/2 inch away from the score line on this side. And I realise that 1 centimetre is not the same as 1/4 inch, but it doesn't really matter how big the flap is. So those are just easy measurements to work with. So again, I'm going to go up about 1 centimetre away from the score line here. I think I grew up in a funny age in the UK where metric and imperial were kind of mixed, so I use a little bit of both. which I know is a little bit strange. So then I'm just cutting all the way up the score line on this one. So on both these skinny panels, I'm cutting all the way up the score line. And then on each of these wider panels, I'm cutting 1 centimetre away from the score line. And you can see I'm not measuring it or anything, it doesn't need to be exact at all, you just need a flap essentially. And then I'm just going to cut a notch off the end of each flap. So just a little triangle from each end, and that is just going to help the box to go together nicely. So I'm just going to fold all the score lines. So then I've just grabbed my tear and tape, and I'm just going to put some tear and tape on each of these flaps just next to the score line. I like to do my tape like this, so I'm just folding it over because I know that that's the side that I need it on. But if you get to this point and you realise you've put it on this side, so it'd have to go like that, just turn your box inside out, fold all the score lines the other way and just go that way. So it's an easy fix if you've put your tape on the wrong side. Now you just want to line up the score line with the edge of the panel next to it. So there's the base of our box. So you can see it's actually quite a big box inside, big enough for plenty of chocolates or nice little gifts. So it's 4 inches by 2.5 inches by 4 inches, so it is quite big. And then I'm just going to grab the lid. So I'm just going to score all the fold lines first. Or even fold all the score lines first. If you don't have nails, you can always do this with a bone folder. Right, and then we're going to cut all the way up here to the second score line, so 1, 2. Then we're going to cut this flap off here. Then I'm going to cut across here to the first score line and cut up here. So that leaves us with this little flap. So you've got a step and then a flap with that. If you think of this as 4 squares, that 4th square is the flap. So we'll go again, so we're going up to the second score line there. Cut the bottom off here. To the first score line and cut off that square. And we've got this flap. Now we'll do it again, just making that step shape. And it doesn't matter whether your flap goes that way or that way, just as long as it's there and you don't cut it. So then I'm going to go around now and I'm going to cut notches into all these tabs. So we want one at each side, so we're just cutting little triangles. So you've got just a tapered tab, and we're also going to cut the end pieces. So I'm just going up to that first score line and we're just cutting a little triangle off of each side. So we want to do that with all the tabs and all of these long side pieces. So in each case we're just going up one score line. So then I'm going to pop some of my tearing tape just onto each of the tabs just next to the score line. And I like the tearing tape because it's a lot quicker just to pop it on and then tear it off rather than getting the scissors each time. And it's nice strong tape as well. And then I'm just going to fold these so that the fold line meets the edge of the side of the box. Right then, so then I'm just going to fold these out, and these tabs are what reinforces the lid. So they fold in and they make the lid stronger, and they also mean that it has a nicer finish in the edge rather than just finishing like this, which is fine because this will be inside the lid. It has a nice folded edge to it, which just gives it a more professional finish. So I'm just popping these along the edge of these tabs rather than next to the fold line, because that'll keep them down better. And then I'm just going to fold these in. And then that can go on the lid of there. So then to decorate the lid, first thing I'm going to do is just pop a little bit of our tearing tape all the way around the outside. I'm just making sure it's pretty even distance from the bottom of the lid. And then I'm just going to take this off bit by bit, and I'm going to put, this is the bumblebee ribbon, I'm just going to pop it on here. Then I'm just going to pop a little tiny bit of the tape just under here on top of the first piece of ribbon, just so that I can seal them together without there being this kind of join here. So I'm just going to cut that off. So you can see that already just brightens up the side of the box. Then I've got two pieces of cardstock. I've got a bumblebee piece which is 4 by 2.5 inches, and you'll remember that we made the lid slightly bigger than that because we wanted it to fit on the base. So you see there's just a thin border around the outside when we add that on, and then this one is 3 3/4 by 2 1/4, so that will just layer on the top there. Then I want some butterflies to go on there. So I'm going to take my Memento black ink and the butterfly stamp with the butterflies and the leaves on. I've not used this stamp before, and sometimes with photopolymer stamps there's still a bit of kind of almost like a greasy residue from the manufacturing process on them when they come. So sometimes it takes a few prints just to get a decent image. So I'm just going to print that a couple more times. And I've used this piece even though it means that these go off the edge, because I need 2 full ones and I only really need about half another one. So I'll just use the pieces of this that I need. So then I've got a bunch of Stampin' blends. I've got my Mango Melody duo, my Shaded Spruce duo, I've got my Flirty Flamingo duo, my Calypso Coral duo, and my Petal Pink duo. I'm just going to go through and colour the images. And I'm not doing anything special, I'm just kind of varying the colours a little bit. So I'm just going to go in with a bit of dark, and then I'll do the other bits light in a second. And if you've never used the stamping blends before, they're really gorgeous alcohol markers, and they come in sets of 2, so you get a dark and a light of each one. So they're really great because you don't have to worry about which number blends nicely with which or anything. You know that your dark blends nicely with your light. And you can blend different colours as well, but it's just a really nice thing to know that when you start, that you've kind of got a dark and a light that you know will blend well. You don't have to get to know the colours fully before you start blending, all that kind of thing. I've actually never done any kind of like colour charts or anything like that for these, because I know that I can just pick up the colour that I want and just use them, because I know that the darks and the lights will blend nicely together. I'm not actually going to use them for blending on this one though. I don't want a blended look. I'm just going to use the dark and light separately, just to create a bit of interest. So I'm just going in with the lighter one and just completing the leaves. You can just see it just adds a bit of interest rather than just having the block colour. So then I think I'll do some of the butterflies in the Mango Melody and Calypso Coral, and some in the Flirty Flamingo and Petal Pink. So I've only used the dark on the Flirty Flamingo, and I'm just going to use the dark on the Petal Pink as well. So then with these ones I'm going in with the dark Calypso Coral, and then I'm going to alternate that with some of the light Calypso Coral. And then I'm going to go with the light Mango Melody and just fill in the gap. And now I've just realised that I've missed the light shaded spruce on these ones, so let's just go back and finish that. Then I'm going to cut these out. So I've got 2 dies like this, so I'm going to cut those out like that, and then with the third set I'm going to put the individual dies around each of the butterflies and the leaves, and I'll cut them out like that instead because I want these ones individual. So here are my die cut images. So you can see this is the one that we cut that was half off the page. This one's the full one. So you can see that looks really nice all together. These are the ones that I cut individually, and you can see this was my first time die cutting them. But you can see there are like little notches in some of them because where they've been kind of butted up against each other. So you can see this one would have been here. So you can see that that's where that butterfly went. So the way that you would need to get around that is to stamp a couple of these images, and you could maybe colour and cut these 3 from one image. Then you would have to do another image and just colour that one in, and another one and colour those in, and then you could die cut them separately, and then you wouldn't get these funny notches. But I don't mind that for now. We're going to go ahead with these, but I'm just saying that if you want a perfect image, which this obviously isn't, then you need to say stamp this 3 times, colour the pieces that you're going to die cut from each one, so you still only need to colour each one once, but across the 3 images, and then you can cut them out of each. The other thing that you could do is cut it with this and just fussy cut just between the lines, so you can just cut them apart with your scissors. So I want these pieces to go on top of here. So I think that what I'm going to do is use a couple of these pieces where the so where I've got the notch here, I'm actually going to use this on this top piece, and then I can cut some of these pieces out and then they won't have notches on. So then I'm just going to pop some of my dimensionals on the back of here. And I'm just going to line this bit up where we kind of stamped it off the bottom of the card with the bottom of this piece. Saves a bit of cutting later. And then I'm going to add this one in the top. So where I got that funny little notch, I'm just going to pop that off the side so that will get cut off in a second. I'm actually just going to cut these up at this point, because if any of these end up having kind of funny nodules out of them, then I can use those on this as well. So you can see I'm literally just cutting these apart, and then where they join I'm just rounding off the edges a little bit, just so that they don't have little bits sticking out or anything. So it's a really simple job just to cut them all apart. And honestly, I think unless I just wanted one, so if I wanted like 1 or 2 butterflies but I wasn't bothered about the rest of it, then I would cut those out using the single dies. But if I wanted all of the images, then I would probably just do this. I'd probably cut it out with the main die and then just trim them apart, because it's a lot quicker than stamping it out 3 times and cutting all the bits. So I will use the single dies for when, like if I just wanted this butterfly, it's much easier just to stamp it and cut it with a single die. But then if I want all of the images, then I think it's easier to die cut it with the big die, just one pass through with the machine and cut them apart. I've gone a little bit over here, so I'm going to do this on here, and then I can have that off the card. You can solve all your little mistakes this way. Now I'm just going to turn it over and I'm just going to trim the edges off. So then that's ready just to get stuck on there and go on the top of my box, and you can see how really pretty that is now. And then I'm just going to pop some glue behind there, and I'm going to pop that on the front of my box. And then I'm going to put these bits on this side. In fact, I think I'm going to pop those on with some dimensionals. And then on the back I'm going to add these 2 bits down there, pop that there. And then on here, I'm just going to add this. In fact, I might just add that one on there. And I might add that as an extra piece down here on the back. So then you can see we've got this gorgeous box with this lovely lid, and we've got the pieces all the way around the outside. So I quickly made another plain base for this box as well, so that you could decide, because I couldn't decide whether I liked it better with the plain base or the butterflies on it. So I thought that I would make another plain one so that you can see both and then you can decide for yourself. So here's the plain one. And here's the one with butterflies. To be honest, I quite like them both. I still can't decide, even having made them both, which I like the best. So let me know in the comments below, do you like the butterfly base or the plain base better with the lid on top? So that's our project finished for today. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you would like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got a new video live. All of the products that we've used today are linked in the description below, and there's also a host code there. If you pop the host code into your basket before you check out, then I'll send you a free gift after the end of the month. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.